About Prada's results. Aaron Fischer, who is head of luxury research at CLSA, joins us this morning. Aaron, take a look at these numbers, huh? I guess you've been shopping a lot at Prada. Up 72% for the net income. Was that surprising to you?
Yeah, I mean, we thought that the numbers would be very strong for this year, but it was about 5% ahead of our expectations. But I think what surprised people was that people were expecting a slowdown in the fourth quarter, but in fact the sales growth in the fourth quarter was actually very strong. In fact, if you look at Asia, the growth accelerated, with growth in the fourth quarter up 50%, including China up 45%. So a very good performance.
Yeah, and also don't forget we have a maiden dividend as well. So they made so much money they might as well pay it back to shareholders. So what's your call for the stock?
Now, we have a buy recommendation on Prada. We have 4 reasons why we like the luxury goods sector going into this year. First of all, we think the top line growth is going to remain very strong. I think people underestimate how important emerging market customers are for the luxury goods sector. We think it's around 50% of total sales, and we think the emerging markets demand is a structural story, not a cyclical one. So we think that's going to hold up pretty well. Secondly, the operating leverage in the luxury goods sector is also very high because of the fixed costs at the rents and also the staff costs. Thirdly, the luxury goods sector has low capex requirements as well because they've already got an established store network in developed markets such as the UK, France and the US. A lot of the customers, emerging market customers, are coming to them. And then the fourth key point is that the European brands we think will take market share over time, particularly here in China.
Yeah, so a bounce up in its profit of 72%. You think that's going to continue to be a growth at that rate?
No, look, I think it's hard to maintain that sort of growth going into this year because 2011 was just an incredible year for the luxury goods sector, particularly for Prada. So looking into 2012, we expect sales growth of around 20%, which will be driven by about 12% like-for-like sales growth, and then net profit growth of around 33%. So still another very good year.
Yeah, I still don't get how 2011 was so great for Prada. I guess they were selling more in Asia to make up for the slowdown in Europe, but they said Europe actually performed better than they had expected.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, it's going back to the point I made earlier about tourist spend. About half of the sales in Europe are from tourists, and this is driven by Asian tourists, Russian tourists, Brazilian tourists, and that demand is holding up very well. So the European performance is very strong, and then of course very strong growth in Asia and also the US as well. In fact, Japan actually rebounded quite sharply as well during the year.
Oh yeah, that's what they said. Japanese consumers are still buying luxury, according to the CEO in his conference call. But they also expect gross margins to improve further. How's that possible? I mean, don't you have to pay more for leather, you have to pay more for oil costs, etc.?
Yeah, look, the gross margin's up to about 70% now, which is very high. But what they're doing is they're changing their mix of business. They're moving more towards retail, which carries higher gross margin. And they're also moving more towards leather goods, which carries higher gross margin than apparel.
Okay, so that's what they're doing. I guess shifting their sales products. Okay, so is Prada the best buy in the luxury space?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Asian listed stocks, definitely Prada would be our top pick. But we also like other names as well, like Chow Tai Fook and Samsonite. And Samsonite had very good numbers out yesterday. I mean, I can't say that Samsonite's pure luxury goods, but it's definitely the high end.
I was going to say, don't they have suitcases for just $100? I mean, that's not high end, is it? We actually had the CEO on recently, Samsonite's Tim Barker, and talking about explosive growth in Asia, but can they actually continue to see sales at that speed?
Well, I think Samsonite's another great story. I think their performance in India and China has been exceptional, but also because they're investing very heavily in product innovation as well, and that's driving market share gains in more developed markets such as the US and Europe.
All right. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, Aaron, good to see you. Thanks for dropping by today, and we'll check on how product trades later on when I guess we have Hong Kong and Shanghai markets open up for trade. Thank you for that. There you go, Aaron Fischer.